It's the phenomenal STEMist. It's 4 p.m. Phenomenal first Sundays. How are you guys doing? Hello, hello, hello. Let's see who's with me. I'm gonna give a little bit of time for people to log in. It's good to see you, Mr. Curtis.
It's good to see you too.
Walters. I'm excited. I want to check my yep, I'm streaming now on Facebook. We're streaming on Facebook. And I will also stream on YouTube shortly. Yep. Yep, we're on YouTube, we're on Facebook, we're on Phenomenal STEMist. Just to remind you guys, I could always depend on my mama.
Yeah, absolutely. Hey,
Anybody's
moms.
watching. If there's anybody watching, it's mommy.
It is moms. Good to see you, moms. So,
More people will come on for sure. Until then, we're going to start. This is Mr. Curtis Walters, everyone. And Curtis Walters is a structural engineer. He's been working as a structural engineer for the past 15 years. Currently, well, not currently, but he received his bachelor's of science in civil engineering from the beautiful historically black college and university, Alabama A&M.
let's go.
Yeah, okay. In 2006. There's a trend there. A lot of the engineers that I interviewed went to HBCUs. Well, most of the people I interview have gone to an HBCU. Curtis, thank you for being online with us.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, I love engineers. I've had like a series of engineers in the past few months. I had an electrical engineer, I had a computer engineer, I had a mechanical engineer, and now I had an environmental engineer a couple of years ago. Like there's so many engineers and they all get PEs, which is basically the certification level that you're a real engineer. But yeah, now I have a structural engineer. So, first question: when did you fall in love with your discipline? Hey guys, if you have any questions, remember to ask.
Yes, please ask. So for me, it was a progression for me. Actually, when I was in 7th grade, just like everybody else, math was okay with me. So in 7th grade, I was playing around a lot, so I failed math in 7th grade.
Wow.
And my punishment was that I couldn't go to New York, to Miami with my father and my brother. So the next school season, I had to take math again. And my brother was 1 year behind me. So I had to take math in his class.
With your brother?
With my brother. Yeah. But the teacher was awesome. Go ahead.
I was like, "What's up, Courtney?"
Yeah, Courtney. Yeah. Of course, I didn't tell him I was doing this, so he'll see this after. But so having a little bit of insight on what's coming up with the math and being in his class, I started to do well. I got very good grades, and then the teacher, he was an awesome teacher, Mr. Brown. It was just natural for me to want to impress him, as since I failed last time. So it just forced me to keep trying to get good grades. So.
Wow. So what you're saying is failure motivated you to really start getting into math, right? Which is one of the pivotal foundations
Yeah, absolutely.
of engineering.
Absolutely.
Interesting. I mean, I interview lots of people, and it's usually fuzzy stories like, oh, I loved my pediatrician when I was a kid.
Yeah, I saw the one. Yeah.
I watched TV and I saw a lawyer. Oh, you actually got motivated to do better from a mishap. I think that's amazing.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
how and that you were 12, base. How old were you?
Yes, around there. Yeah.
Yeah, around 12 years old. Okay, okay,
Yeah.
that's
Having
interesting.
having to be in class with your little, younger brother. You can't get bad grades because you look up to you and it's like, okay, I got to step my game up. And
Yeah.
so, yeah,
Wow. So
that
you made a
and we.
mistake. You made a
Mhm.
mistake. You learned from your mistake, and then you were motivated to be a proper example to somebody older, younger than you. Yeah. Go ahead,
Yeah.
Curtis. What are you saying?
So I was saying, yeah, that and I grew up in St. Thomas, and we were renting houses for the first couple of years of my life, and then my parents decided to buy land and build a house, and so we weren't exactly rich. So my father did a lot of the construction himself, and so that forced,
Mm.
I was the oldest boy, and so I had to help out, and honestly, it helps me so much right now because even with my house, my friends call me to help them fix stuff. So basically, anything in the house I can fix, except mechanical stuff. But so I think all of that just tied the construction and the math. It was logical for me to do. Actually, I wanted to do bridge engineering first. I love the bridges, the Golden Gate Bridge, those big long spans with the cable suspension bridges. I love
Yeah,
those.
you love
But
seeing that.
yeah, so all of my degrees in civil engineering. Civil engineering is the broad umbrella. So it goes civil, it does urban, it does environmental. It's a whole bunch of fields you could go into. So after college, I went into structural, and then I never looked back. I love structural.
Wow, wow. And I think it has to do with your childhood where you worked with your hands, you helped your father
Hmm.
build his your house,
Hmm.
but also you loved math or you excelled in math. So together,
Yeah.
because you could have as easily become a construction worker, and there's nothing wrong with
Hmm.
that.
Hmm.
But because of the combination of these things,
Yes.
you did that. Okay,
And
good,
so
good, good,
I
good.
used to tile. I tiled for a while, so I was in the construction field
That's
also.
a good point
Yeah.
because you got your degree recently. I mean, and when I say recently, it's not that
Hmm.
recent, but
Hmm.
like for instance, I we're about the same age,
Hmm.
and I got my PhD in at the same year you got your bachelor's. So
Yeah.
obviously, you were doing other things
Yeah.
beforehand.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Going to, I would never encourage anybody to take time off from going from high school to college,
Mhm.
but for me it was necessary. I needed the maturity,
Okay.
and it helped me to understand myself better and know what I need to the direction I need to take my life into. And so after
Mhm.
college, played around with some retail stores, Foot Locker and various stores, and then I started my tile business. And then that just hanging out with my sister's friends, seeing them being professional, although I was probably making as much
Right.
as money as some of them.
Shout out to the trades. Trades make
Absolutely,
good money
absolutely,
too.
they
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
absolutely,
Please.
skills is very, yeah.
Yeah.
So although I was making as much money, maybe probably more than some, uh, I wanted to be professional. And
Okay.
so that's one of the reasons why, even though I had my company, I was making decent money. It forced me to go back to school and
And
do
that's
this.
your story. And so
Hmm.
we can't tell anybody to do anything, but we can't say any way is right. I went
Absolutely,
straight
absolutely.
through.
Hmm.
You took time off, and we are all different people. It leads to
Hmm.
different results. And
Hmm.
so I love that you told me that story and told the people
Hmm.
that story. There's different ways to become a structural engineer. All right. Number
Yes.
two, what tools did you use to discipline yourself to succeed? All right. So you were a little bit more mature when you decided to actually go to college,
Hmm.
right?
Hmm.
So, what tools did you use?
So fortunately, or unfortunately, sometimes, according to my wife, I have a little workaholic tendency I got from my
Mhm.
father. He was a teacher at the school that I was at when I was in elementary, and in the evenings and on the weekend he would tile, and which I learned how to do as well. And he would always be working either on our house or at school grading papers when he comes home, or doing
Mhm.
his tile job. And I think that rubbed off on me. So and then after having my business, having the entrepreneurial spirit, I had to go and get stuff myself. I
Mm.
want business, I need some money, I have to go and make sure the next job is lined up, even though I'm working on this one. So multitasking, having employees and having to make sure that I'm one step ahead so that I can make sure that I have food on my table, but also theirs. There's a lot of responsibility. And so I think when I started my job, my boss actually told me that's one of the reasons why he liked me, because I have a mindset of an entrepreneur by myself. So once you give me a project, you don't have to baby me. You can go ahead and push and, yeah.
Get it done.
Mm-hmm.
That's what you sound like. You sound like a guy that gets the job. Listen,
I try.
Curtis gets the job done. He's a church brother. He not only does work in terms of his profession, but even when he does volunteer work or work for the Lord, he gets stuff done. And so what I'm hearing from you is, I think it's maturity. Number one, you were mature and you had an entrepreneurship mindset where you don't have to be micromanaged.
Mm-hmm.
You know how to get stuff done, and so you literally purpose in your heart, even though it might lead to workaholism. So we need to balance that.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, so you're really involved in accomplishing tasks. You're task oriented, and so that's a tool that you use to discipline yourself. What were your challenges?
You know, I think it's a big one for everybody. Time management.
Mm-hmm.
I think across the board, that's a problem, and understanding how you learn. So because I took time off, I understood what I needed to do to learn the way that stuff will stick for me.
Mm-hmm.
And so time management and having to do all that stuff is just another big thing actually. I think maybe it started because of high school, but in college, when I decided to go back, my brother was there at Oakwood actually, and so when I decided to come back, we both went to A&M, and we both were in the civil engineering program. So we were both, most of our classes were together, and so some people have to get tutors, some people have to find different motivations, but I think it really helped because some of the things that he was good at, I wasn't good at, or vice versa, and that just helped to motivate us. And when you reach a problem that you can't solve, you have somebody to bounce off the ideas right there. So that we honestly, I don't I don't think I've had this conversation with him, but he's also a pivotal person that helped me to continue to push through. Because honestly, the last 2 years of my degree was straight math. Every class, math.
Good.
And it's a lot, And I think also my ability to problem solve helped a lot.
Yeah. Yeah. So what you're saying is so pivotal, because I get a lot of people who have dreams. I want to be an engineer. I want to be a physician. I want to be a scientist, right? And they come to college and then they get hit with analytical geometry in Cal 1.
Yep.
And that's just the beginning. Like
Yep.
that's just
Absolutely.
and they drop. They said, I can't do this. And so one of the reasons why I have this program is, number one, so that more Black men can see other Black men accomplishing it, having accomplished it. For instance, you did it, and you did it for the last 15 years, been doing it the last 15 years. And so when stuff gets hard, they don't see a whole bunch of Asian people around them and feel like it's not for them, because that's the situation a lot of the time.
That's my company, yes.
Even at HBCUs,
yes.
Even at HBCUs,
absolutely. Right? Most of my teachers are Indian or Asian, yes.
Right. So if they don't see an end game, they'll think, actually, maybe this isn't for me. Right. But the second reason why I have this program is to prepare parents, for them to understand that you have to get your kids involved in mathematics from a young age.
I think one of the biggest problems, math is one of those subjects that I hear a lot of people either love or you hate.
Mm-hmm.
And the problem with math is it takes time. And so you can't just open the book and finish it quickly, you
Right.
and it builds on, last year helps you with this new year. And so the concepts build. So if you start off behind because you have a bad teacher or something and you don't have a tutor to help you, then you kind of lost when you get to the next grade. So because I failed in seventh grade and I was able to build a strong foundation on that at that point, then it just helped me so that whenever, like algebra and stuff, everything comes back to it. So when I
Mm-hmm.
was in college and I was doing physics 1, 2, calculus 1, 2, and 3, differential equations, linear algebra, you know, my GPA was, I think my GPA was 3.87. So it
Wow.
helped, having that love for math and having a good foundation
Mm-hmm.
helped push through, all the stuff that's a little hard. You just find a way to solve it. Just break it down to the simplest form and just go from there. And it's not as bad. It's not as hard.
The most time I spent in study was math.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a biology major.
You're right. Right.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And when I was doing pre-calculus, I wasn't
Mm-hmm.
studying biology. I was
Yeah.
I was doing all the problems that my professor
Mm-hmm.
gave me to practice.
Mm-hmm.
I went all the way to calculus 2. I didn't go far in math. I did
Mm-hmm.
pre-calculus 1, pre-calculus 2, calculus 1, calculus 2.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't do linear algebra. I didn't do any of that. But
Mm-hmm.
the math classes that I did take, so I only took 4 math classes in college. But the math classes that I did take, when I was studying, I studied more for math than all my other. Spent more time on math than all my other classes because, like you said, it
Yeah.
takes time. It takes time to start from this, and then you gotta solve this problem, and then you solve for X, and then once you
Mm-hmm.
solve for this X, then you can solve for this,
Mm-hmm.
and you gotta follow the steps.
Mm-hmm.
And you're like, why does that even matter?
Mm-hmm.
Because, and in my opinion, in everything in life, you gotta follow steps.
Absolutely.
When you
Absolutely.
skip steps, like the whole process messes up.
Mm-hmm. Facts.
Yeah, but everybody
Mm-hmm.
wants to skip steps, and that's why we just messed up. Versus like
Yeah.
just go to step one
Yeah.
first, then step two. Yeah, yeah, so
Especially
important.
this younger generation, everything is so fast. Everything is microwave. Like
Yep,
I need an answer right now. I see this problem, and in my later years in college, sometimes it will take me 2, 3 pages to finish one problem.
absolutely. I remember.
And
That's what
so,
I'm saying.
yeah. So if you start the problem and you want to hustle through the steps to get to the end, you put up on some problems because you have to take it one step at a time and be
Mhm.
okay with the steps. You
And
know.
be okay with the steps. When I'm in lab, my students try to skip steps. And then they ask me a question like, "Oh, something's not working." I
Right.
said,
Because you skipped.
"Did you skip the step?"
Hmm.
This step says dip the meniscus
Hmm.
below. I mean, dip the box below the meniscus. But you decided to skip that because it
Right.
didn't
Because you
matter.
didn't see it important to you. It didn't seem important to you. But
Right.
if it
So
was
we
if it
went the
wasn't
whole
important, right?
process.
Yep.
If it wasn't important, like you said, go ahead, say what you're
You
saying.
won't, yeah. If it wasn't important, it wouldn't be a step. you
Curtis.
you get those IKEA furniture and they give you the steps and you want to skip forward and then you get to the end and like, oh no, this handle can't go on out because I skipped this step in the front and I got to disassemble the whole thing.
Right.
If it wasn't important, it wouldn't be a step. They would just leave it out.
That's real.
So
That's real life. So
hmm
we get to be like, what does math
absolutely.
have to do with real life? A lot.
Hmm.
A
Hmm.
lot. So anyway, you were saying your challenges were time management and what it seems one of the disciplines you used is working with others. And a lot of people say this. You're
Uh-huh.
not the only
Hmm.
one. You know, I don't know where students feel like they have to do this thing on their own. You
Hmm.
can't. I had study groups.
Hmm.
You had Courtney. Like
Hmm.
you need other people. I always say this. I learned this from somebody, um, a physician in South Florida. People process plan.
Hmm.
People
Absolutely.
process plan. You
Absolutely.
need a plan, right? For sure.
Hmm.
You need to follow the process. No skipping of
Steps.
steps.
Yeah, absolutely.
And you need people to
Hmm.
accomplish the goal. Like,
Hmm.
And so you're saying even though it was a challenge, um working with others helped you manage your time wisely. All right, so what are your challenges now? First of all, tell me what you actually do now, and tell me what your challenges are.
So I'm a structural engineer. So a lot of people mix that up with architecture. So basically, the architect meets with the client and they come up with the design of how they want the building to look based on the client's desires and whatever municipal code. If they want to build a high-rise building, some codes just allow you to build 10 stories or 8 stories. So the architect meets with the client and comes up with what they want. And then after all that initial design, room layout, window layout, finishes and stuff is done, taken care of, then it comes to me and I basically make it stand up. So all the things you can't see, the floor trusses running this way where you have to put steel beams in, sometimes the architects do crazy stuff. They want to put a 4-inch wall here, but it goes 12 feet high. I can't do that. So it is managing their expectations as well, so that the building can stand up basically.
You make buildings stand up. That's what you. That's the.
Absolutely.
So while the architect draws it on a piece of paper and thinks, "Oh, this would be a great design," you have to know the math and the construction
and tell them if it can work, if it's possible.
If it's possible to work to actually stand up. Wow.
Which is where creativity comes in as well, because sometimes it's not everything doesn't line up. So I can't just trace the load down. Sometimes the load comes down to a certain point, and I got to find ways to support it at whatever level. So.
Wow. So we were talking about this earlier. Like he's also like an avid photographer. He has. What's your business called again?
I for perfection. The letter I, the number 4, perfection.
Lowercase I, the number 4, perfection. Like everybody is like asking him to do their weddings and all kinds of stuff. And so he has this analytical side, but he has his creative side. And I said, I think he even approaches his creative photography from the context of math. But he told me, but I also need creativity for my structural engineering. It's
absolutely.
like you need both. Yeah.
It's
so
not,
go ahead.
It's not easy like this one beam. It's not like, oh, I need a beam here, so let me calculate the load for this beam so I can size the beam correctly. It is how best to lay out the supporting structure so that when I run the numbers, that I already know that, okay, this is possible because this is the only way that it can happen. So actually, before I start to run numbers, I have to do the layout, be creative and run that stuff first. And then comes the math.
Yeah. Okay. So what are your challenges?
Time management.
You'd be surprised. Like every time I ask questions, a lot of time the same problem that was in college is the same problem.
Yeah, this is the same problem, different variables that you have to factor in now. So now I have a family, you have kids, you got to balance kids with, and because I can fix stuff, I can tile, I can do all that stuff. I do carpentry. So I get a lot of requests for stuff and I have a problem saying no. I try very hard. So I have a problem saying no. So I have to make sure that I can find time, not just to get all my stuff done for my professional career or my photography or my time with my family, but just time for myself. It's very important that you take care of yourself, because when you take care of yourself and your mental health is strong, then you are the best version of yourself for everything else you put yourself into.
Absolutely. You're the best you can give. And so you have to learn how to manage your time. I appreciate you taking the time to come and do this video with me. But yeah, I hear you. You have to manage your time wisely, and self-care has to be high on the list.
Absolutely.
Because it says you love your neighbors as you love yourself. If you don't love yourself, you can't love others, and so you got to give your best self. So okay. So being able to manage time wisely, work-life balance, it sounds like.
Absolutely.
Yeah. All right. Last question. This has been a great interview, Curtis.
Thank you.
What's your favorite part of your career? What do you like the best about being you're a structural engineer and senior project manager? So busy.
Yep. So it's very rewarding Just like I like to encourage people to do trade sometimes. Even if you're going to school for a certain degree, it is awesome to have a trade that you can either fall back on, or you can help fill up some space. If I lose my job, there's many different things I can do. So having that flexibility is very important. But anyway, so for me, my favorite part of my career is getting the initial design or what the architect would like the building to look like, and making it stand up, and going to the field and actually seeing the building that I designed standing up. So, I'm a structural engineer, but sometimes I go to the projects I designed, and it's so amazing to see the buildings, like, 5-story wood buildings, 4-story wood buildings, and they're standing up, and we're in a hurricane zone. So the hurricane comes and they don't blow down. So,
Wow,
it's
that's
validation for how I designed the building. It
yeah.
is rewarding. And sometimes I go to the projects I design, and I just walk around and I look at the building, and people look at me like, what is he doing? What, he's trying to scope the place? No, I'm just trying to, I see beyond the pretty stuff to what's behind it. And I see
Mm,
how it's all incorporated, and it's rewarding that that's me,
yeah,
that's it. I'm the reason why it stood up.
yeah.
And not to be
That's
like the engineer for the well, not blaming him, but like, stuff can go catastrophically wrong, like the building in Miami that
yeah,
collapsed.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
So, although it's fun and it's rewarding to see it, it's very sobering sometimes when these things happen, and you can see, when you don't have your game face on, and mistakes happen. You have, basically, my job is, I have people's lives in my hands.
yeah.
So it's very sobering sometimes to think about that. You know,
Yeah,
but
what you're
rewarding.
saying is so it's rewarding because you can see it standing, and
Hmm.
like you said, you come to my house. When I come to my house or any house, I see all the pretty stuff on the
Yes.
outside, but
Yeah.
you see the internal skeletal structure.
Hmm.
That I mean, like you're
Yeah.
like the
Yeah.
skeleton. You're like the
Yeah.
you know
Absolutely. Exactly. Absolutely.
you're more interested in my skeleton than you are my nice
Your
afro.
skin.
You know what I'm
Oh yeah.
saying?
Yes. Oh yeah. Afro. Yeah. Nice afro. Yeah. Absolutely.
Right? And so it's
Yeah.
like you see beyond the beauty to the thing that really matters because you got to keep
Absolutely.
it standing.
Absolutely.
And then on the same time it's very sobering because if you're fallible, you're a fallible
Hmm.
person, and
Absolutely.
I
And
can
you can be.
imagine. Yeah.
I mean, we have factors of safety that we use. So if something goes wrong, you have other ways that you can take care of the load. So it's not just one column supporting the whole building, but it's
Right.
still, it's still very it's still very crazy sometimes if you think about it.
Yeah. And it makes it more important that you not skip steps,
Yeah,
right?
there's no skipping
Not
steps. There's no skipping steps.
you skip steps, you take shortcuts, buildings
Mhm.
fall down,
Yeah, yeah,
right? So
absolutely.
practice that when you're doing your math homework. For those of you who have your kids watching,
Nice.
don't have say give them practical reasons why it's important that they show their work.
And in
Yeah.
school, the teachers tell you all the time, they give you a problem, and there's many different ways to solve the problem, but they want you to follow these steps
Hmm.
specifically. You can
Yes.
you can find the answer easily if you do something else, but I want you to follow these steps. Is to get you in the mindset of steps are
Right.
important, and part of the instructions and completing your task is to follow the instructions and the steps properly, so that your
Yes.
outcome you can feel confident that, okay, I followed the steps, so this is the outcome I have. If I make a mistake, I didn't
I
just jump to the end. I can go back and see, oh, okay, this is where I made a mistake. So let me correct it here, and then I'm confident that when I come to the end and I get an answer, I followed the steps correctly, and the answer that I get, I'm confident putting my name on it.
There you go. And I just feel like if everybody understood this concept, life would just go
Yeah,
much smoother.
absolutely,
I mean,
absolutely.
this is life. We're talking about math and engineering, but we're also talking about real life. This has been an awesome conversation, Curtis. I really, 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 really appreciate you. My mother said steps are important. There's more people watching than my mother, but they're not. I see them watching. I see the views,
Awesome, awesome.
but from Facebook and YouTube to show your love for Mr. Curtis Walters. Everybody, he did such a great job. Like if
Yeah,
you understand Curtis, he is, he's behind the camera. Okay, he doesn't
yes,
usually he
I'm
usually
behind the
come in
scenes.
front.
Yes,
So for him to
yeah.
take the time to do this for this short 30 minutes, see, we went 30 minutes, Curtis.
Wow.
Awesome. Yeah, I am the
Okay.
phenomenal STEMist, and so is he. Good night, everybody.
Good night, guys.